The H-1B lottery registration season is right around the corner. Let's make sure that you are taking the steps now that you need to be prepared. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration, and welcome to Live at Lunch, our weekly go live on this platform that you're watching on. We stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, and my personal LinkedIn page, and YouTube. Anyway, let's get started with this. So let's talk about what is required. Facebook is the other one we stream on. Mental slip there. So let's talk about the steps that you should be taking now in order to prepare for the H-1B lottery registration season, which is right around the corner. So let's talk first about when that is. So this video is designed for employers who are potentially going to sponsor employees or prospective employees for the H-1B lottery, but it's also for those foreign nationals who need to be sponsored for the H-1B so that you can make sure to have a conversation with your employer to make sure that they're taking the right steps now. So USCIS announced last week that the H-1B registration period will be from March 7th to March 24th. So that is the only period for the entire year until next March that you can register an employee for the H-1B lottery. So let's talk high level about a few things. Let's talk about what is the H-1B lottery, what is the process, what are the steps that you should be taking now, what are the steps that will happen after the lottery is completed, and mistakes that you should, of course, try to avoid. So the H-1B, as you probably know, is a type of work visa. It is a visa designed for professionals, meaning for positions that require a minimum of a bachelor's degree in a specific field of study in order to enter that profession. It is very commonly used. There are lots of people in the United States on the H-1B. However, a challenge with the H-1B is that there is a limited number of new H-1Bs available every year, specifically 65,000 plus an additional 20,000 for U.S. master's degree holders. That numerical limitation, that cap, only applies to individuals who have not previously held H-1B status, who have not previously been counted against the cap. There may be individuals who have held H-1B status and they have worked only for cap exempt employers. So only, for example, universities or higher institutions of higher education or nonprofits that have an affiliation with an institution of higher education or certain other cap exempt employers. That's always something to look out for. But otherwise, if you have a situation where you need to file an H-1B transfer for an employee, an extension and amendment, those would not be subject to the H-1B cap. This is only for individuals who have not been counted against the H-1B cap previously. So there are so many people who want an H-1B, a new H-1B, that there is a lottery. The way that USCIS conducts this lottery is they have a registration period, which, like I said, is open between March 7th and March 24th. During that registration period, the employer has to create a USCIS account, which we help them with, and enter certain information. We can do that for you, but enter certain information to register a particular employee for the H-1B. So you do have to name the particular employee. You can't just say, oh, I would like to sponsor 3 H-1Bs this year, and then go through the lottery, see how many are selected, and then choose your candidates. You have to have that individual's information from the get-go. So it is critical to prepare ahead of time, because if you miss this window between March 7th and March 24th, you will not be able to register again for the H-1B lottery until the following year, until March of 2026. So it's critical that you take the steps now. Every year I have at least one, usually more, conversations with employers and or foreign nationals who are contacting me in April and they're ready to start the H-1B process, and it's too late. We have to wait until the following year. So I recently listened to a podcast. It's about law practice management, but the host of the podcast was talking about easy mode versus hard mode. And she was talking about, to live your life in easy mode, you have to take steps now, today, to prepare for the future, right? Because otherwise you will get to tomorrow, whether tomorrow is literally tomorrow or in March or next year or whatever it is, and you will wish that you had taken steps previously so that you can live your life in easy mode. And when I say easy mode, it's not easy to live in easy mode, right? Because you have to force yourself to plan and prepare and take steps ahead of time, but it makes life easier down the road. So if you want to live your life in easy mode for the H-1B process, these are things that you should be considering right now, today, on February 11th. And you have time, but you should start thinking about this right now. I have a comment. Somebody says a phone number to contact for more information. Certainly. Our phone number is 804-396-3412. You can also visit our website at sumnerimmigration.com. And we have a page, if you click the employment-based immigration tab at the top, there's actually a page dedicated just to the H-1B CAP process that has lots and lots of information, including the fees, the process, the engagement letter, all of that. So feel free to call us, but also feel free to check out that page as well. So that at the end of this video as well. So steps that you should be thinking about right now are, if you are an employer, start identifying the employees or prospective employees that you want to sponsor for the H-1B. That can include people who are overseas right now. So every year we have employers who sponsor individuals who are currently overseas. They may be working for my client, the employer, on a contract basis as an employee, or they may just know this person and want to sponsor them for permanent residence. Also, individuals that are currently in the United States in a different immigration status. So that can be things like TN, E3, H-1B1. Again, every year we have corporate clients, employers who register individuals for the H-1B CAP who are in these different statuses, because the employer wants to be able to sponsor these individuals for permanent residence later. It's not impossible to sponsor someone for permanent residence if they are in these other classifications like the TN H-1B1, but there's something called dual intent. I have another video about that in our series. It's actually in the Sumner School Business Immigration Basic series on YouTube, where we talk about dual intent, but the H-1B and the L classifications are clearly dual intent, which means you absolutely can start the green card process while you're in that classification. You can travel back and forth without a problem. You have to meet requirements, but it's not a problem to travel, to keep extending. So that is a reason that you might want to consider registering someone for the H-1B lottery if they're already working for you in a different visa classification, like the TN, for example, or H-1B1 or E3 classifications that aren't necessarily dual intent. So consider those individuals. Also consider individuals maybe that are working for you on H-4 EAD. The EAD stands for Employment Authorization Document. That those individuals might want to transfer to H-1B status for any number of reasons. It might be that their H-1B spouse is running out of time. There's a limit of 6 years in H-1B status. It might be that they're concerned that the H-4 EAD program is going to end. That's a possibility. So there may be any number of reasons that they want to do that. In addition, you as an employer may have individuals working for you who are working on OPT, which is optional practical training, STEM OPT, which is if they have an additional, if their field of study is on an approved list, basically in one of the STEM fields, but again, it has to be on this approved list, and they can get an additional 2 years of OPT, or somebody working on CPT. So all of those classifications, OPT, STEM OPT, and CPT they are for individuals who are here in the United States on F1, which is the student visa classification. So if you're employing someone or working with someone who is a foreign national student, they likely would like to transfer from or eventually change from OPT or CPT to H-1B. That's kind of the next logical step in their process. One note about that, if you are employing somebody who is on OPT, STEM OPT, whatever it is right now, they, like I said, likely will, the next logical step is to transfer to H-1B. If they're on OPT, they have up to 12 months to work on OPT. For STEM OPT, they have an additional 2 years. So if you have an employee who qualifies for a STEM OPT extension, they will have 3 years to work for you, which sounds great. You might think, oh, that's fantastic. I don't have to sponsor them this year because they still have 2 years left that they can work without sponsorship. And that's true for sure. But I always encourage employers and employees to register in the H-1B lottery as soon as they can and as often as they can. So I say that because the chance of being selected in the H-1B lottery, of course, depends on the number of people that are entered, that are registered in the lottery. but the chance for the past 2 years, the percentage of selection has been about 26%. So around 1 in 4 chance of being selected in the lottery. So if you wait until that third year of OPT, or if you wait until the very end of OPT to register in the lottery, you're throwing away chances that you did have before. I absolutely recognize that there are practical concerns that you have to take into consideration in addition to immigration concerns. So for example, as an employer, you might say, I want this person to work for us for 6 months or a year, whatever it is, before we commit to this process. I understand you may have that, the policy in place, and I understand. I know that there are other concerns, but as an immigration lawyer, I just cringe every time I meet somebody who was able to register previously and they didn't. So that's something to keep in mind. So those are the types of individuals that you should be looking for, adding to your list to register in the H-1B lottery. The next step that you should be taking is making sure that your employer account is set up. Before you do that, I highly recommend that you decide if you're going to work with an immigration lawyer. It's up to you. I, of course, recommend that. And honestly, not just because I'm an immigration lawyer, but because you want to make sure that this is done correctly. It seems straightforward, and it is. We've had clients who have registered individuals on their own successfully before. We've also talked with a number of prospective employers who tried to do this on their own and messed it up, and it's devastating for both the company and the individual. So if you're going to work with an immigration lawyer, I would set up that relationship now, decide who you're going to work with now and set that up, and then they can hopefully help you set up that employer account. That is something that we do. So if you're interested in working with us, the first step is to go to our website, again, sumnerimmigration.com. If you go to, and I'll put the link to this in the comments, but if you go to employment-based immigration, there's a tab that, or on the drop down, there's a page specifically for the H-1B registration process, and it has all of the information that you need. We're happy to have a consultation with you as well, and we'd like to, if we haven't met before, if you're not a current client, to make sure that it's an appropriate position and this is a good fit, all that. So I would say decide who you're going to work with, find out what steps they will actually help you with or not, but know that you're going to have to set up an employer account. Then gather the information that you will need. Again, if you're working with us, we will walk you through this step by step. It's very streamlined and automated as much as we can. I know that for most people, immigration coordination is not your full-time job, so we make it as easy as possible. But the information that you will need is the company's tax ID number. It will also include the beneficiary information, things like their passport. We ask for their degree information to confirm that it's an H-1B appropriate position, and to determine if they're subject to the master's cap or the regular cap, that type of thing, and then some basic job information. So that's the kind of thing that you'll need to gather. It's not overly complicated for this registration period, but you do want to make sure that you're doing it right. Then once you have all of that, again, if you're working with an immigration attorney, if you're working with us, we will walk you through step by step to make sure that everything is confirmed, that you have the chance to review everything, and that everything is properly submitted during the registration period. Once the registration period ends, USCIS will conduct the lottery. They are not very forthcoming about exactly how this is done, right? But we know that it's done, it's done by computer. I know that they do not look at an individual case's merits. So they won't look at, a person who's doing cancer research and say, oh, we really need that in the United States, but we don't really need another accountant or whatever it is. Nothing against accountants at all. I love accountants and really need them myself. So just know that they don't look at any of the data. It's just literally a random selection of the people who have been entered into the lottery. Typically, the lottery is completed by the end of March, so we have notifications. We let employers know if their employees have been selected. USCIS doesn't close out registrations. They don't say, oh, you definitely have not been selected until they know all of the slots have been met. Have been taken. So last year and the year before that, they actually had a second round of the lottery in July. So your status on the registration portal will not change until USCIS knows that they have met they've taken up all the slots that are available. So mistakes, things that you should try to avoid. And of course, none of this is legal advice, but these are things that I have seen that you want to avoid because it can be problematic. Number one is missing the registration window. I know it seems basic, but like I said, every year I talk to people inevitably at the end of March when it's already closed, or in April, and they're like, yeah, I need an H-1B, and we have to have a conversation about what to do next. It's not, sometimes it's unavoidable for that particular situation to happen, but if at all possible, make sure that you're taking the steps now to be prepared to be able to register during that registration window this year. Duplicate registrations are absolutely prohibited. So that means a company cannot enter a foreign national into the registration, into the lottery more than once. If you do both, or however many of the registrations that you did will be canceled. And they may, depending on the scale of it, if it's something massive, then they may investigate, but it's absolutely prohibited. One thing to keep in mind is that an individual, the selection is done based on the individual employee. So they do the selection based on unique passport numbers. So if John Doe, let's say he's a foreign national and he has 3 different employers who register him in the H-1B lottery, USCIS will select John. If he's selected, they'll select John Doe's name. He's then going to be attached to 3 different employers because those employers, A, B, and C, all registered him in the H-1B lottery. He could then file an H-1B petition through any one of those 3 employers. So it's not, and this is a change that they implemented last year, the selection is not done based on the individual employer. It's done based on the employee. And that's reduced, we think it's reduced the number of foreign nationals who have registered multiple times and are taking up multiple slots. So know that that's the thing, but the company absolutely cannot register a person more than once. And then inaccurate information. I know it seems, again, pretty self-evident, right? To make sure that you're including correct information, accurate information, but that can cause tremendous problems down the road if it's not accurate. I'm not saying that it can't be corrected, but it depends on the nature of what's incorrect. It's just much easier, of course, to make sure the information is accurate going in the first time. So that is the information that we have. Those are the steps that you should be taking if you are an employer. To recap, look at your list of potential candidates, whether that is existing employees who are here in the United States on a different status, or perhaps are working for you overseas, or individuals that you want to hire in the future that will need support. Visit our website if you need help. Take a look at that CAP. Even if you don't plan to work with us, we have information about the process that might be helpful. So look at our website, make sure you have a relationship with the immigration attorney that you plan to work with. Like I said, if that's us, then we will walk you through the process step by step and then gather that information that you need. And we are here to support you, to make sure that everything is done correctly and to answer questions along the way. I hope that you have found this information helpful. If you have, I hope you'll share this video with a friend or a colleague and make sure that you subscribe to our channel. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law. We assist with family-based and employment-based immigration matters around the country and around the world. If you're interested in contacting us, you can visit our website at sumnerimmigration.com. You can send us an email at info@sumnerimmigration.com, or you can call us at 804-396-3412. We look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you'll join me next week for our next Live at Lunch at noon on Tuesday. Until then.